Hi, everybody. It's your old friend Gary Lucas, and today is February 6th, Saturday, here in New York City. It's 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'm still buzzing from a great taping experience last night. We did 3 hours working on recording a concert up at Euphoria Studios up on West 27th off of 6th Avenue. It's a really great rehearsal studio, and they do live streaming from there. It's fully equipped, very, very nice people. David Sokol, the guy who owns it, is an old friend, and they were extremely helpful for us to get organized to do this. And it was myself with a great singer I've worked with for several years now, Feifei Yang, from mainland China. Feifei lives in New York now for several years. And I was playing this acoustic and 12-string on a number, but mainly this acoustic guitar. And Feifei was singing the songs as well as playing erhu, the 2-string Chinese violin, which he's quite the virtuoso on. And then we did a number at the end, a duet in Mandarin, which I regret my Mandarin is still not quite up to snuff. I mean, it's not like I've been working on it very assiduously. But I think I mastered the lyrics to the song well enough. I'll post that song later because we've done it with a big orchestra behind us for the Lunar Festival in the fall, the Moon Festival here up at Lincoln Center, Avery Fisher Hall. And anyway, they're going to air this live stream it on the Queen's Library in Astoria, the public library, Queen's Public Library Astoria website, I believe, this Friday, but I have to check the time, and I'll put a link up. This Friday being the official start of the Lunar New Year and Chinese New Year, we're going into the Year of the Ox. And it was a lot of fun to be there. Both of us got tested, of course, for the virus. I've been tested now, I don't know, at least 6 times. Probably should be doing it more often, but Carolyn and I don't go out much here in New York City except to go grocery shopping and to walk Lulu. So, and I feel pretty good in general, health-wise. But we were both negative, and all the people up there have been tested. It's a very clean and a safe environment. They have a ultraviolet light to further sterilize the studio situation in there. Anyway, I recommend it, and tell David Sokol Gary Lucas said hello. I don't know, maybe we'll give you a few bucks off the rate. I don't know, but because I can't have Feifei here or Jason Candler, regrettably Jason could not take part in this taping, but we miss him a lot. We have a really tight trio, and several records in the can we've recorded together. I hope that they're going to come out this year. I just heard one of them again. They're super, super good. And anyway. This is a Chinese pop song from 1940 that was recorded by Yao Li, who was one of the 7 great singing stars of Shanghai, the so-called 7 great. They really are great, though. And her English name that characterized her was Silverlight, as opposed to Gershwin, who was known as the golden voice of China. I've also, and in the repertoire, we have songs by Bai Guang, who was known as Bai Guang was White Light, Yao Li was Silver Light, and then Gershwin, who, in my opinion, is the best of them all, certainly the most characteristic voice, was the golden voice of China. Yao Li lasted quite some time. I mean, she just passed away about a year and a half ago in Hong Kong, I think it was July 2019. And this song, Rose, Rose, I Love You, is very interesting. It's written by 2 Chinese composer and lyricist team, and the lyrics reflected in code the notion that the Chinese nation would endure, because at the time it was written, they were under heavy occupation from Japan, and if you research it, it was a terrible, terrible time in the history of China. A lot of war stories, atrocities occurred, and I believe there's still some bad blood there. But in any case, as I like to salute everybody on planet Earth all at once, for trying to pull through during this pandemic. I think if there's anything we've learned, that we have to all work together to hoard vaccines. I mean, there's a current situation due to Brexit where the EU is being taken to task for not being quick enough on their vaccine production, and it's been difficult for them to obtain vaccine from Britain. And then meanwhile, the Russian and the Chinese have apparently very effective vaccines, which, for whatever ethno-nationalistic reasons, there's resistance in various countries to accepting them because it would signal, I don't know what it would signal. It would seem like a great humanitarian effort for everyone, in production to share with as many people on Earth as possible, don't you think? But go figure, Beefheart had a song about this, Ant-Man B, which I would refer you to lyrically because it kind of describes the situation. But anyway, so Rose, Rose, I Love You was kind of a coded hit that was in support of the Chinese nation, that it would endure under occupation. And then a version of this was discovered by a British broadcaster who he brought it back to Britain, and it got played on the BBC. And then in 1951, Frankie Lane, the American, what would you say, cowboy singer, he's the voice of Rawhide, if head him up, move him out, Rawhide. Frankie Lane recorded a version with the Norman Luboff Choir, I think, on vocals, and an orchestra. And it actually, with different lyrics in English that had nothing to do with the original. This pop song on Columbia Records got to number 3 on the Billboard charts. So anybody who tells you that Chinese music can't be popular in the West, and certainly in America, really doesn't know what they're talking about. And in fact, the first time I met Seymour Stein, I went up to his office at Sire, and we had lots of mutual friends. And Seymour is probably best known to punk rock fans as someone who invested heavily in the genre when it first really emerged at a CBGB scene here, thanks to Danny Fields, his friend. And so Seymour said, so what are you up to? And I said, well, I just recorded this Chinese pop album. It may be my most successful album sales-wise, because at that point, Harmonia Mundi, whose founder just passed away, the original lady who started it with her husband, they were reporting sales of close to 30,000 on this record, which is pretty damn good for an indie album on an indie label, especially one of a rather, at least on the face of it, esoteric nature. Gary Lucas plays mid-century Chinese pop. So anyway, Seymour said, Chinese pop, I know Chinese pop. And he started to sing the Chinese version of Rose, Rose, I Love You in his office to me. This guy is an incredible treasure of discophilia. I mean, he really knows his stuff vis-a-vis the whole history of recorded music. And anyway, so I'm going to play Rose, Rose here, which I did record as an instrumental to come with Jason, and it's a little interlude in my show with Feifei. Yeah. Rose, Rose, I Love You. And I didn't really learn about this song until after I had a chance to play it with my last batch of singers in this project. I've had Chinese pop project going in one form or another since about 1999, 2000. And I have to say Sally Kwok and Maggie Moe were terrific. We did 2 sold-out shows at the Brooklyn Academy of Music with Gods and Monsters as the backup band, Billy Ficca on drums, Ernie Brooks on bass, and Jason Candler on the saxophone. And we had Jordan Shapiro on keyboards, who's a great player. Anyway, the next phase will be me, Jason, and Feifei. And if you get my latest 40-year retrospective compilation, you can hear a teaser on that album of 2 songs. One is Bob Dylan's All Along the Watchtower, which Feifei translated into Mandarin Chinese, with the approval of Dylan's manager, Jeff Rosen. Thank you very much, and Universal Music, who hold now the copyright pretty much on Dylan's publishing. And there's an excellent clip that I'm going to make public this Friday on that song that was put together by myself and a very mysterious fellow. I can't reveal his whereabouts now, but he's done phenomenal work assembling, clips on the fly for me to help sort of cross-promote this record. But anyway, I want to thank all the people who've been so supportive of this, because the press has been coming in internationally, and it's been terrific pretty much. So lucky, and thanks to everybody. I keep posting links. There's one to an interview I just did with Cornay Evers, who's an old friend of mine who used to live in Holland and now lives in the Philippines. And check that out. There's a translation by Mirai Brouwer, who did a really good job, because my Dutch, again, it's, I would say English and French, I'm fairly cognizant, at least reading French and understanding it. But speaking other languages, I don't know. I did learn Hebrew at one point, but it was fairly rote for the time I was bar mitzvahed. But I could fly through the reading it on the page at one point. Anyway, thank you to the following group of people who were so generous at PayPal. Peter Nikolakakos. He's a multiple contributor. He's bought a lot of merch. Great guy. Someday I hope to meet you. Are you living in Greece? I wonder. I'm not sure. But I love to play there, and I have had some lovely experiences there. John Schick, again, thank you. And John Alderman, all these Johns. Nicholas Johnston, here they come. John Vesenberg, but this is Jon, John. Thank you. Peter again. Mickey McMahon, a longtime watcher of the show, and so nice to see you again in that way, particularly. Todd Gray, thank you, man. Pamela Banding. Jonathan Luftig. I'm still waiting for those new masks, Jonathan. No, just kidding. Jonathan, who's has been in a long-time relationship with a lady, a Chinese woman named Ling, which is is the name of my former Chinese wife, Ling. Alexander Fedorov. You want guitar lessons? I aim to please give me a shout at Gary@GaryLucas.com. Robert Porth, thank you so much. You can see there's quite a few people who have come forward. Goran Konyevod, I hope I'm pronouncing this right. It really is a pleasure and a thrill for me to hear from you guys, and keep watching. And, okay, wanted to tip you to one of my favorite magazines, which normally comes every couple of weeks, and that is the New York Review of Books. It's a bit expensive to subscribe to, but well worth it because not only do you get a nice survey of current books of interest that have come out, which are hard to keep abreast of, but the essays in there are really impressive reading. Often the last issue had a really good essay about conspiracy theories by my friend Jeffrey O'Brien, who is a wonderful writer, as well as Jim Hoberman, who used to do a regular column at the Village Voice under the name J. Hoberman. He is quite a film scholar, and he had an appreciation of the latest, I think it was a Netflix film about Herman Mankiewicz, who you probably know Ben Mankiewicz from his very erudite introductions on TCM to classic films. But he had a very famous relation who, well, there's a lot of controversy on whether or not he wrote The Complete Citizen Kane or it was mainly Orson Welles. And that's been disputed down the years. And the film sort of raised all those issues and personified people in the narrative, including William Randolph Hearst and Sam Simeon, which is known as Xanadu in Citizen Kane, and his consort, Marion Davies. I mean, it was an entertaining film. It was okay. I didn't love it, to tell you the truth, nor did Caroline, but it's a good essay by Hoberman. So check that out. And I want to thank also Feifei, because she gave me this voluminous gift after the show, after we recorded our show last night. And what is it? It's a bag from Chinatown here in New York that is filled with PPE. I mean, K95 masks, the surgical variety of masks. She's really on that mask tip, as am I. I prefer the surgical masks, although I'm not sure they are as effective as K95 masks, because I just find them easier to breathe through. I find that very thick masks of the woolen variety, the washable woolen masks, and certainly K95 masks, are just a bit cumbersome. I have difficulty with respiration issues sometimes anyway, so I'm sticking with the surgical mask. But Caroline and I were delighted. Thank you again for that. And what else can I talk to you about? Well, I guess it's time to hold this album up now. Okay. Here it is. I mean, the essential Gary Lucas. It's ringing the phones off the hook at the Knitting Factory. And it's actually doing very well, I'm told. And who knows but that they may do a repress pretty soon. So that's very gratifying. I think for someone who's put 35 albums out to date, that it would be a good introduction for anybody who's new to my work to definitely be exposed to many manifestations of it in a nice integrated package like this. Otherwise, you are free to roam through the 35 albums, most of which are probably up and out there on Spotify or whatnot, but I don't know what your habits are vis-a-vis listening or discovering artists. And for those who already know my work, check it out, because there's a dozen now, I mean, hitherto unreleased tracks, rare tracks of mine, collected here, and some teasers about what's to come in the future, including, hopefully, these albums that I've recorded with Feifei and Jason. Okay, enough said. Let's see. composer is here to stay, George Gershwin. I I was requested to arrange and learn that music, beautiful song, for the wedding of my old friend Glenn Kenny and his lovely wife Claire. And it's not on this album. It is on an earlier album called Ciné Fantastique. But Glenn wrote the liner notes on this record. He's a very erudite writer, and he's been supporting my work. He's going back to, must have been about 1990 in the Village Voice. And then he wrote a weekly column for the Daily News for a while. His main writing preoccupation these days is as a film critic for the New York Times. So check him out there, because I would pretty much trust his opinion on just about any film out there. He's quite knowledgeable. And let's see, what else can I say when I got your attention here? Well, I think it's going to snow again tomorrow, which might be a good thing. Most of it is still on the ground, but it's melted off enough to make pathways so you don't really need to wear your heavy boots, but it's slippery. And this is something I really have to be careful about, especially wearing a mask. I don't know about you, but it blocks most of my peripheral vision. So I often cannot see my feet under me while I'm walking, and so I have to do it kind of slowly, which is okay, because I won't run for anybody or anything. I learned that the hard way some years ago, which I won't get into here. But I think it's generally a good operating principle in whatever sector of life you want to apply it to. I mean, as far as moving quickly towards anything. I mean, sometimes, of course, some things appear and you want to go for it, okay? And the early bird gets the worm, blah, 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 and all that. And then, yes, I can understand it. But in general, in terms of getting anywhere in the physical, corporeal sense of moving your body around vis-a-vis your two legs, I think, no. I mean, I'd like to take it slow and steady wins the race. I'm not out to win any marathons. But the other thing is, even a gladiator is not a permanent pillar of strength. Eventually, even intellectually, the rhetoric sinks into just that, and the rhetoric of the will. But the effect it might have on the rest of the world diminishes. So slow, take it slow, but not to impede progress. I'm not talking about that. I'm all for change, even rapidly, if it made sense to me. But as far as getting from A to B, I love to get to airports with plenty of time to spare. The worst thing I can think of is running for a train or a plane because I was just lazy or not thinking about getting up in time, to make it. I cannot for the life of, people who can waltz. I mean, Ernie Brooks is real good at that, Ernie. No offense. But he was known to, we'd all be on the plane when Gods and Monsters was actively touring. And where's Ernie? Where's Ernie? And at the 11th hour, he would just stroll nonchalantly on the plane. And he just had an unerring sense for, shaving it as close as he could to maybe even missing the gate or the gate closing. But I don't know. I would not recommend this either. Though maybe it looks cool. I don't know. So, I think I've run out the clock. And what else can I tell you? What little treasures? This just arrived from Powerhouse Films. A Blu-ray DVD of one of my favorite films, which is Joseph Losey's Eve, otherwise known as Eva, starring Jean Moreau, one of my favorite actresses, in her perhaps most sexy and erotic roles, with the great Stanley Baker as her foil and dupe. It takes place in Venice and a few other Italian cities, basically. It's quite a good film, with Verna Lisi also in the cast. And there are definitely a couple of versions of this. It was, according to Losey, butchered by the Hakim brothers, who produced it about 1960. And they've been floating around, so this DVD collects it all, and there's a bunch of other extras, so I can't wait to see it. So that's the thing. If you are really a film collector, a lot of these things disappear. They do limited runs, and then they're gone. But if you are persistent, you can find on the web all sorts of really good companies. Some of them are boots, obviously. They're like DVD-Rs. I just got one for Jean Eustache's The Mother and the Whore, one of the great French, I would say, new wave classics. Really great film, about 4 or 5 hours long, and it's been notoriously unavailable in a DVD edition for years and years and years, but you can find it. And okay, let's take a look around the neighborhood. Not too much activity today, nice sunny day. I don't know if they're still working in a hot tub or what the heck they're doing up here on, I believe, Hugh Jackman's joint. And here's that oligarch's mansion. I don't know what they're gonna coat it with the outside, the exterior with. No, not sure. Maybe rubber. Not sure. Julian Schnabel's Palazzo Chuppi, the old water tower. There's Westbeth, the famous Westbeth. It would take you years to get an artist studio there, unless you showed up here in 1976 and applied yourself. But anyway, I'm kind of happy where we are, frankly, and I love playing for you and inviting you in. Okay, here's a little survey. Caroline's in the other room. I tried to coax her on for a pop-in, as Larry David would describe it, with Lulu today, but she was having none of it. Anyway, I hope to see you all on Tuesday. Have a great time, and check out that 40-year retrospective album. I'll post a link any moment now, soon. All right, big hugs, big kisses. See you Tuesday. Have a great weekend. And wear the mask. Put on the mask now. Bye-bye.